I figured it out. The way to determine if your friend is a narcissist. So, hi everyone, welcome back. Today, I want to share a way I've come to realize can give you a clearer understanding of whether or not a friend in your life might be a narcissist. Not some vague checklist, but a way to really start seeing the patterns that reveal who they truly are, even when it's subtle. By the end of this video, you should anyway have a lens to look through that helps you understand your friends in a whole new way. So you don't have to keep doubting yourself or questioning what's real. So keep watching. The way to determine if your friend is a narcissist is not as simple as noticing one or two bad behaviors here or going down the list. Most people rely on lists that include things like constant need for admiration, lack of empathy, exaggerating achievements, believing they're special or entitled, manipulating others for personal gain, reacting badly to criticism, and showing envy or dismissiveness towards others. And these are definitely the clues that determine whether or not a person is a narcissist. But narcissism is subtle. And when it comes to friendships, it hides behind charm, humor, and even generosity. Experts say that it can take years sometimes to truly recognize because it's not just about what they do, but how they make you feel and how they manipulate the story of reality itself. It's incredibly hard to identify, even when the narcissist in your life is your partner. You can watch all the videos, read all the articles, even follow every checklist out there and still feel unsure because if you were certain, you'd probably already be at the stage of radical acceptance, letting go, or taking steps to protect yourself. But most of us aren't there yet. Instead, we're stuck in that exhausting loop of rationalizing. Maybe it's childhood trauma. Maybe it's trust issues from the past. Maybe they'll change. So, if it's that complicated to identify with a partner that you see every day, imagine how much harder it is when it comes to friends. You don't live with them. You see them, what, maybe once a week or maybe a couple times a month. You don't witness the day to day patterns or behavior. So, what is the constant need for admiration can look to you as though they're just really excited to share their new experiences with you. You might not see that they're actually seeing themselves as special and reacting badly to criticism and might look to you as though they have triggers from some painful childhood trauma and you want to be there for them. You want to be the understanding one. And yet the signs are there if you know where to look. And you'll notice little things like when you look at your friend, you'll notice that they aren't really there for you when the going gets tough. But yet, when they need you, they'll call and tell you how much they miss you or how much fun you are, and let's get together. There isn't even any mention of their not being there for you the last time that you connected. It's as though it never happened. That's the lack of empathy, by the way. But now time's gone by, you're in a better place, and you're feeling a bit lonely or empty. So your heart blows wide open at the thought of seeing them. That right there is cognitive dissonance. Seeing them is the highlight of your week, and you pretty much roll out the red carpet for this get together. The perfect snacks, the perfectly mowed lawns, the clean house, and the perfect outfit. It's almost as if it's a date with a lover that you're going on. You're trying to impress them. You're looking for approval. Some clue that tells you that you matter to someone because you feel like you don't inside. And they somehow make you feel that you do. You want to be seen because for you, this is your supply to be seen, to be needed, to be of value because it feels good and it feels great. You feel alive again. And you tell yourself that's what friendship is supposed to feel like, the good and the bad. You mistake the rush of being needed for the warmth of being cared for. You confuse attention with affection. And for a while, that's enough until it isn't. Because the bottom line, a real friend doesn't just show up when it's convenient or when they need something. True friendship doesn't make you question your worth after every conversation, especially when you notice these little things like when it's your turn to talk, the subject quickly reverts back to them. It doesn't leave you feeling awkward with their silence when you mention something hard that you're going through. They kind of give you this blank stare, like they don't know what to say to you. They'll blurt out things like, "Well, cheer up," or just think positive thoughts as if you're some mechanical doll that can just flip the switch. A real friend will say something like, "That's got to be hard," because a real friend is going to have empathy. A real friend will remind you of who you are, even when you forget. Friendship isn't about being useful, it's about being seen. Narcissistic friends, they rarely reveal themselves directly. They wear masks. With these people, it's all facade. They'll compliment, they'll make themselves appear to be helpful or bright somehow to the outside world. Some will use the spiritual angle to gain recognition. They'll say the right things and you feel connected. But if you really want to know who they are, use your listening skills closely because that tool will open up a whole new perception of them. Listen to what they are saying regarding people around them. Have they mentioned suddenly discarding a friend recently in which seemed like a cleanup for their own sanity or something? And if you were to take a deeper look, thinking back, if you knew this friend, was this so called dumb friend a person who doesn't answer to every whim? Did they have issues that the narcissist didn't want to hear about? Were they outgoing, perhaps outshining them? What have you noticed about that relationship? Or do you hear them gossiping about their friend? And if so, what kind of things are they ranting on about? Remember, narcissists can blame others for the very thing that they themselves are guilty of. Then there's the partner. That one's even more telling. That one might just take it all home for you because this one holds a lot of information if you pay attention because it's almost always the partners who get abused the most. Remember the phrase, the devil is in the detail. Use that. Watch for the details. I'll give you a couple of stories here, true stories of how I myself came to confirm narcissism, which will show you what to look for. I once knew this woman who she would tell me how while her children were growing up, she was a stay-at-home mom while her husband ran his business. He worked hard building that business, but made sure that she had everything that she wanted to make her happy because he spent a lot of his time getting this business off the ground here. So she shopped and she shopped a lot and bought only the best of the best. So basically that was her life. She would send the children off to school in the morning, shop all day, get her hair done, and meet friends for restaurant lunches, go back home after school, and wait for her husband to come home so that he could take them out for dinner. She couldn't even bother cooking him a meal. And later, once the children were grown and gone, she started taking classes and traveled, all at his expense. In her travels, she had discovered these new health trends, and she started eating these different foods that he had a zero palate for. And mind you, he's still working many hours here. So she tells me that he didn't like what she was making, so he was on his own to make his own meals. No compassion for the husband who gave her the world. She even hired a housekeeper to clean her house. And these are stories that I gathered over the years, but they were put in such a context that it bypassed my brain. She always presented as someone who was always willing to be a better person, and that's one of my biggest values is people that want to grow. She'd tell me stories like how she apologized to her husband about something, and that used to impress me. It solidified the fact that she was a person who thrived on growth. But the thing is how do I know she actually did it? Apologize. She could have told me any story she wanted, right? It wasn't until things got really hard for me where I needed a friend and she wasn't there for me. And I started looking back on all the things that she had told me regarding her friend that she had ditched and regarding how she treated her husband, that I was able to confirm what I was dealing with. Another person I knew, this one posed as someone who was always trying to help others. She constantly went on about working on her nonprofit organization that was helping victims of abuse. And she would tell me that this was a business that she used to run, and somehow there were these issues with the government, and this paperwork was what had stopped her business somehow. And now she was working on starting it back up. And I can respect that for sure. But when months turned into years and all I saw were words but never action, I thought, she was constantly showing up every weekend, always under the guise that she needed to drop something off just to get in the door. And then she'd stay the whole day until, embarrassingly, I'd have to ask her to leave. It was really uncomfortable. I mean, company's great, but when it leads to 9 hours and they're still there and they know that you have things to do, and she too was a shopper. She was retired, and again, her husband also paid for everything. She told me that all she had to pay for were groceries with her retirement money. So I started noticing patterns with her. Every week, she would bring over a bowl of soup that she'd make from leftovers, often from restaurant leftovers, because her husband would take her out to eat every weekend. So every week, I would make lunches and dinners because she was staying the whole day, like 4 course meals here, and do the cleanup and ask her to leave because it was now way past my own bedtime, which I later realized that she just didn't want to go home because she had filled all her spaces with boxes and things that she had hoarded, that there was no longer any place to sit in her house. So my place was comfortable. I also noticed the pattern that she would call her husband like a good little wife to let him know of her plans. And it was always the same conversation. She would ask him if he found something to eat. There was never anything, right? And she'd always tell him that there was soup in the fridge. Then I started questioning her on how she spent her day the day before and the day before that and so on, only to find that I was only one of the people that she visited. It was a set pattern. Every day of the week, she'd go to someone's house for the day while her husband ate nothing but soup, and all he could do was sit in a little space of this beautiful house he had built and spend his days and nights reading on his computer. And I knew this guy for years. He was the type of guy whose passion was to build things in his garage. Now he didn't even have access to his own tools because she had even taken over that space with her boxes. So once again, I was being exploited. Other people she visited were being exploited, and her husband was being exploited and getting sicker. I told her once that her husband needed more than just soup to live on, but that went over her head. It didn't affect her. She got great meals all week long. And at the end of this relationship, I remember her telling me how cute her husband was, begging her not to leave him alone one day. Cute? So sad. He was sick and lonely, and he was approaching 80. So I listened with open ears towards the end and made it a point to question more. And it turned out that throughout the whole marriage, she had cheated on him over and over again. She also told me in a conversation once that her husband was afraid of her because she yelled at him a lot. And this was somebody that presented as soft spoken and very sweet and quiet. So the point to all of this is the devil is in the details. This woman wasn't this compassionate woman that wanted to help the abused. She herself was abusing her own husband and exploiting him because her money didn't go to food. It went to shopping for clothes and trinkets. He got leftover soup. The words and actions did not match up. And these are only a few tidbits I'm mentioning here, but the patterns are right there in how they speak, what they justify, what they never take responsibility for. They can sound charming, funny, even vulnerable, but listen closely. You'll hear the imbalance, the self-focus, the quiet cruelty dressed as casual conversation. And that's how you start to see it. Not through what they do to you, but how they treat everyone else. So here's what I figured out. If you really want to know who someone is, listen to how they talk about the people closest to them, not the strangers, not the coworkers, not the ones who can't touch their emotions, but the ones who could, their partner, their kids, their siblings. Because the way someone describes the people in their inner circle is like a mirror into their character. Narcissists, they can sound generous, funny, even humble, until they talk about the people who love them. That's when the mask starts to slip. They'll tell stories where they're always the victim, never the cause. They'll use humor to downplay cruelty, little jabs wrapped in laughter. They'll describe their partner as too sensitive or crazy or impossible to please. But somehow they'll never mention their own part in any of it. There's always a justification, always a reason why they're right. And if you listen long enough, you'll notice the pattern. That same quiet dismissal, that same absence of empathy. They don't just talk about what happened, they rewrite it, just like the narcissistic partner does. They control the story so that they always come out looking good and the other person looks small. That's how you know. Not by how they treat you, but how they treat the people they don't have to impress. And maybe that's the part we miss when we call someone a friend. We look at how they treat us and not how they treat the people who are closer to them, because they're love bombing us too. We confuse charm with care and attention with affection. But real friendship, it's not performative, it's not convenient. A true friend doesn't need to stand in the spotlight with you. They'll stand beside you in the dark. They won't rewrite the story to make themselves the hero. They won't disappear when you stop being useful. Maybe that's how we start to see things clearly, by listening differently. Not just to the words that they use with us, but to the way that they talk about everyone else, because that's where the truth lies, in plain sight, between the lines, in the stories that they tell when they think no one's really listening. Another thing that can really accelerate the detective work, and in these days we have to investigate everything and everyone if we're to protect ourselves, because narcissists are at every corner. So you want to play detective by writing down every little thing that you find odd, the way that they left you feeling with a statement, the way it seems they're always the one talking, the way that they don't appear interested when you speak, and anything that you deem odd with something that they said regarding a friend or a husband. Writing brings clarity. When it's right there in front of your face, you get to add and calculate. You get to see that 2 plus 2 equal 4 and 1 minus 1 does not add to 2. Question what it is that you gained from the relationship and why that works for you. And you might just find that they were not a friend, but merely someone sitting in front of you mirroring back what you really feel inside, and how this whole relationship was about survival for you because someone was needing you. But needing someone is not the same as loving someone. You love a person for their mere existence. They don't have to walk a mile to be loved, and neither do you. So if this video resonated with you, please take a moment to click on that like button before you go, and comment if you want to add anything. Sometimes your own experience written in your own words can touch the heart of another that no one else was able to touch before. So be smart, be strong, and keep those ears open. We shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.